Hello, friends I made this for. My name is Lauren, and it is Friday the 13th. It's also a Pisces full moon. So, I wanted to make a video because I'm feeling very inspired today. And I am sure a lot of us are, or you're feeling emotional, or you're crying. Whatever you're feeling is totally valid. So, Pisces, that energy, it's a lot. Pisces is one of those signs that can be hard to pin down. Mostly because it's very complex with the levels in it. And not to say that not every sign is, but when we look at the water signs in the zodiac, we can look at Cancer as being the surf. You can swim in it, it's still safe. Scorpio is like the deep, open ocean, not deep, but the open ocean. And there's definitely a lot different things happening there. It's a little more unfamiliar. There's a lot in every direction. But then we get to Pisces, and that is like the deep ocean. That's kind of like the part of the ocean where all the bioluminescent things live. And you're like, what the fuck is this even planet Earth? And it is, and that's what's amazing about it. But that's also Pisces energy. So there's a lot of, what the fuck is this? Because it's the intuitive self. It's the shadow realm and cards to kind of relate to that sign are the Moon card and the Queen of Cups. So we have this deepening of understanding with this emotional self. So with these emotions, there comes a lot. There's the spring of creativity to it. There's this intuitive self that's very in touch. 12th house is associated, as well as Neptune being associated with Pisces, and this is, places of dreams, places of collective consciousness. So it's not an easy thing to navigate for some of us who, maybe don't have as much 12th house placements or Pisces energy that we're working with. But that's not to say that it can't be a really inspiring time too. So today what I want to do is really dive in with a few different cards, do some collective pulling. I'm going to be using the Morgan Greer deck as well as the Sacred Symbols deck, which is by Marcella Kroll. These are amazing. If you've never found them, get them in your life. So I'm going to be pulling from these decks. The Morgan Greer is one that I'm trying to really connect with on a personal level. So I just want to take some time doing this collective pull to kind of dive into the themes of Pisces. So when we look through the lens of Pisces, we're looking through to our spiritual self. It's one deep cave we can dive into is the spiritual self, the intuitive self, and the collective self. So how are we working for the collective? How are we taking care of the collective as well as ourselves? Remember that this is the polar opposite across from Virgo. So the idea is these two signs have similar goals, but different methods of getting there. So as Virgo is very physical, and that route to service, Pisces is more philosophical. Pisces is more talking about, but why do these things work? What are the thoughts, feelings, and emotions that make this work or not work? Whatever really works for you. So that's what I want to dive into. I think my intention for this poll is to really see collectively what are we tapping into for our intuitive self and our spiritual path. So hopefully this resonates with you or makes some sense what I'm saying. So I'm just gonna start. I like to cleanse. Take a few moments to really dive into that intention. Releasing anything that does not serve me or this collective pool. Also, thank you for being here. I know full moons can be a lot, so you're great. Thank you for your patience. So, I pulled two cards, wanted to just keep it really simple and straight to the point since this is a very vague and collective pull. But definitely fitting what came up. So, one from each deck. One an oracle deck, one a tarot deck. So our themes of the day are Two of Swords and power. So, and this is power from the Marcella Kroll deck. So, power, self-explanatory. But this, how tarot cards are, not so self-explanatory. But I think these really dive into a very real place about how we are reclaiming our power. How are we tapping into our power? How are we acknowledging our power? As well as how we might be allowing ourselves to be in a state of powerlessness. So with power, I see this theme as being related to, as I said, reclaiming this. That seems to be a big thing that I'm feeling coming through with this card is, what do we need to get back? Where have we given it away? Where have we said we're powerless? And specifically, spiritual power. Are we taking care of ourselves spiritually? Are we taking care of ourselves and tapping in to the potential of ourselves? With the Two of Swords, that reads very much of, this card to me reads very much intuition. But it also resonates as a place of pensiveness. And I feel in this pull of these two, there's almost this feeling of resistance to taking off the veil and taking back our power. There is the Two Swords coming up as this is very, it's a protective stance. Like, no, you cannot take this away from me. This is mine. This is my connection to spirit. This is my connection to my guides. This cannot be, I'm not giving this up without a fight. There's that kind of mentality to it. And especially with the moon imagery, we get a feeling of tapping into that divine consciousness. But whenever I see this card, to me personally, it reads as being in waiting, in a way. Waiting to see if we can put the swords down, if we can allow our mind, because Two of Swords is very mind-centered, right? It's very centered about how we are processing. So there's a lot. Obviously, we all have a lot going on. With this moon, there seems to be a lot of reflection, but I feel specifically with this card, it's about stepping into your power and out of that space of reflection, because you can only be there for so long before you have to do something. You have to act. And with any sword card, that's a mental card. This is about the brain and how we think. This is thinking things. But I feel this almost overanalyzing what we're trying to come to terms with, when really, if we allow ourselves to work instinctually and work from a place a word that's coming up is almost like divinity. If we're coming from a place of divinity that is not overly righteous, then we can come from a place that is empowered intuitively. So, and I feel like that's it. I feel like that's the theme, is putting the faith, the trust, and the ability to act, to listen to the intuition, and let that guide our decision making. Let that guide your movements on this moon. Act intuitively, but make sure you are listening very closely, because we're trying to step into our power, not give it away. It's a fine line of really understanding how to hold and release. And that's all that's coming through. I hope this was helpful with some clarity. Thank you for being here and sharing this moon with me. If you're interested in me doing pulls specifically for certain signs, please leave a comment and just have an amazing moon. Bye.